So I think we have approximately 40 minutes or so. So my suggested agenda for today was to clean up the usable claim a bit. There was some outstanding work I think we started talking about. We now, with the given discussion on context claims, I think we might come more easily to an agreement on what to rename this user story one claim to, and the issues I raised with that. And the other one is something I only realized after we spent some work on defining fragments, is that we were doing the exact same thing as we did with claim before, where if you look at the current claim on the glossary, the pure claim without any adjective in front of it, it's very much a conceptual claim. So we can easily say, well, it's not a claim if it's an imperative sentence. But that's a distinct aim of trying to define it from a system claim. Like when you add it, we don't really care whether or not it lives up to those expectations. And what we did with fragment, I think we have a bit of both in there. We both have what we want it to be, but also what we want contributions to be. So I think a nice way to clean it up is to do something similar as we did with claim. To first have a conceptual fragment, and then only later consider the digital fragment. So, yeah.
I have a. I'm not sure that's the route I'd use, but let's discuss it when we get there. I'd say let's first work on the first user story, because for me, a fragment doesn't have to live up to anything, right? It's a fragment. It's not necessarily a claim. It can be an entity. It can be spam. It can be whatever.
I guess we can see whether or not it has to live up to anything.
Yeah.
I guess it's part of the
reference to something that's out there, and that's it. It's a reference to something that's out there.
Maybe it will be as concise as that, and then we just have to remove some stuff we already added in there. But yeah, to go back to the first point. So the first point which I raised back then was that a claim, that a usable claim, which is one of our most well-defined things we have right now under the hood. I have to remember what it was. Yes, that our usable claim right now under the hood doesn't use our user story one claim. And I think that was intended originally, that the usable claim very much is tailored to user story one. And we somehow decoupled them accidentally along the way. Because if you see a usable claim is an immutable system claim, if you look at what is a system claim, then it only points to the conceptual claim. That is a candidate accepted or rejected as. I think the conceptual claim here is narrower than this one, because we did add all these other requirements for user story one claim that is stricter. And these requirements, as far as I know, came from what is a usable claim, or some of the requirements for it to, like, once it becomes accepted, like these requirements should suffice. So my suggestion is essentially to give this claims like a new name, or maybe we can even merge this with the broader claim here. And then let usable claim refer to that, or rather system claim, the way we do it right now.
So
there's a lot of indirection here, but yeah, the main problem is that system claim doesn't refer to all the hard work we did on user story one claim. So the user story one claim is fully void of any use right now in our current consensus, which I don't think is correct. Because if you look at what we wrote here, I think a lot of this still applies.
So wait, what's that definition there? What is that one?
This is the definition from user story one claim.
A user story claim, user story one claim. I would assume you would want it to be a usable claim. I would want a user story one claim to be usable.
I think it's the other way around. I think that a usable claim is a user story, or it aims to be a user story one claim.
I'm wondering if some of the, like, for example, is a user story one claim a system claim?
So no. Right now, it isn't, right?
No, but should it be?
I would say it should be, yes. For me,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm asking.
So for me,
system
it
claim
isn't.
is the parent abstraction or parent class of contributed claim, accepted claim, both of which are supposed to be usable claim.
I think for me, it's pretty much a narrower version of claim, which it says right here, a claim, and in a claim in a purely conceptual way, right? A claim which meets some more additional criteria.
Okay, so
which means that to evaluate that, it needs to become a system claim so that it can become a contributed, accepted, or rejected one.
Makes sense to me, actually. Okay, so you're saying user story one claim is a kind of good claim. So that's a more conceptual like claim as opposed to system claim, which is more,
and it might
in the system.
Even make sense to label these concepts as something new. Because the same, I think we'll get into later with fragments, when they're like goals or concepts, they're a bit more. So I would suggest
more aspirational.
Yes. I like aspirational even more because it says what it is. No, aspirational. It's like, and that's a bit. Why didn't it add it? Oh. So if we have a system claim it's linked to some aspiration, like some type of thing we want it to be. And my point here is that indeed this claim user story one is
aspirational. It's not
exactly.
Okay. I mean, my problem with that is that in user story one, you then do things with it, and it's got to be a system claim by then.
No, so we don't actually. If you look at user story one, it's a usable claim. It's not linking to the user story one claim.
Once again, no, I want to link to a usable claim in a claim repository. So it's system.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the user story one claim is not in user story one.
That's the problem. We skipped this. So while rephrasing system claim and all that still relevant stuff, we stopped linking to user story one claim. That is the issue. And I think literally what has to happen is usable claim, or rather system claim, should point to claim user story one instead of claim. I think that's the only change we need.
Okay, let me think.
And then the naming might be off, but that I think was the intent.
No, not obvious. Okay, because suppose we have an indexical, suppose I want to enter an indexical claim in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying because system claims are not user story one claims, right? Or are they?
They would be. If we rename what I'm hovering over now to user story one claim, they would be. But then you're now hinting at the fact that you also want indexical claims to be system claims. So again, system might need to become an adjective, which is fair enough.
Rejected claims. Can a user story one claim be a rejected claim? I don't think rejected claims are usable.
Come again?
Rejected claims are system claims. And I don't think rejected claims are user story one claims. And I don't think rejected claims are usable.
But user story one claims and usable claims are distinct right now.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, now I'm beginning to understand what's going on. And yeah, what you're saying is that you have the notion of system usable claim up to a point.
Exactly. That's the whole purpose of adding these definitions was that. And yes, that might complicate naming, and we might need to consider naming, but
you want user story one to be about system usable claims, am I right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and what I'm saying is there is a maybe distinct user story where we allow non-usable claims to get in the system. We allow indexical claims to get in the system.
Yeah, of course, but the point is naming this differently and
okay,
defining it correctly.
I've no problem with having two user stories. I tend to go for the abstraction first, and I would, but you're right, both exist as cases.
Yeah, and the case is exactly to, if there are different user stories and there is no abstract user story, which, yes, that is my argument, but we can look at that once we add the user story of the non-indexical claim. We can replace it with a more abstract, but right now, if we talk the concrete things, this usable claim was a...
Because the reality is when we're taking a claim from a source, and here we're saying...
we're not taking a claim from...
no, you're right, it's not in that story. Okay, fair. And I even agree that linking to an indexical claim makes very little sense. It's when we're going from a source. Okay,
it probably makes sense, but if it does, it's probably a different use case.
Okay, fair enough.
So my suggestion is, first of all, let's not rename anything, but my main suggestion is that system claim here points to claim user story 1. And
and I'm not happy about that. What I'm saying is, let's create system usable claim, which points to claim user story 1 and system claim.
But
so that we can have system indexical claim.
Okay, so you want to keep using claim as for all claims, including index. But the thing is that the current definition of claim even doesn't really describe, I think, what the work that we were coming to some sense with contextual claim, because it doesn't include fragments. So I don't think that will even work if that's your goal. If you want to be able to refer to contextual claim and this claim in the abstract, I don't think it's this one. That would be a new abstraction, because there's no examples of fragments and whatsoever, and people adding stuff here.
That's perfectly valid. Let me look again at the definition of which. Yeah, you're right that fragments don't fit this definition. However, the erasure of a fragment will be aspirational claim, let's call it that way. This claim, which is there, erasure meaning removing the context. So it exists in the system. What I'm saying is, we've defined usable claim as something, and then applying it to system claim, it's making an adjective implicit, which I think is bad practice. Like, if we're going to have a system usable claim, let's call it a system usable claim.
But wait, what? This is circular, because a system claim is a claim. A usable claim is a system claim. So that's not going to work. Not the way it is right now.
Okay, sorry, user story 1. But yeah, and usable, I see. 1 second.
I think system claim to you is something different than is written here.
No, you're right. There's something wrong there. Usable is not really what I'm aiming for, because...
But, and also, I don't think the point is to aim. I understand you want some type of abstraction, but the point is, let's get to that abstraction first by defining some concrete things, and then we can later say these two concrete things.
And what I'm saying is, let's have the notion, like, what you want is, when you say usable, you mean user story. You mean user story 1, really? I mean good claim, right? You don't mean usable. You mean good claim.
Immutable. Define good, right? I mean, what we mean is that it's immutable.
For example, non-indexed. Okay.
Because it can be a candidate. It's a system claim, so it's something that is added as a user story 1 claim. Yes.
Okay, but let's say something that is entered as an indexical claim, that is entered as not being.
That's not part of user story 1, but yes.
This, that I agree. But what would that be a usable claim according to the definitions we have?
No, the whole point of defining usable claims is to define a thing that we want to use in this user story.
No.
We need to give that thing a name.
that's
no.
no.
Standalone was the old
you're
one.
you're telling me whether it's in user story 1. That's not what I'm asking. In which definition, in which cards does it fit? Is it a usable claim as the cards are done now?
Which one?
A valid indexical claim.
No,
indexical.
It's orthogonal.
That's what I thought.
There's no, it's fully orthogonal, and we haven't defined whether or not there's a shared abstraction.
Which card excludes indexical? It's user story 1, right?
This one so far, yes.
Okay.
But I mean, that depends what you mean by indexical. But yes, the user story 1 claim here indeed says that it should be standalone-ish. So I think a usable claim is essentially a system standalone claim, like a standalone claim that has been added to the system, which may be accepted, rejected, contributed.
And what I'm saying is, maybe we need to call it standalone or something. But
yes,
what I'm saying is, there's
it contrasts with indexical. If we're going to go to an indexical or contextual, is what we called it last time. We have the standalone thing that I've been fighting for quite some time. And then there's a contextual one that includes fragments and people that wrote it. Like these two need separate concepts.
Yes,
and then there's some other work.
Okay, and for you, usable implies standalone.
Yes, for all of us.
Not as written now. Not as written now.
Well, it is, if you look at the definitions, it is what it boils down to. Well,
no, as type claim, it doesn't. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, yes. But the intent, because again, we started with this user story. The intent was for it to be standalone. At some point in the past, it actually was named standalone.
Yeah, for this user story. No, but what I'm saying is, I think it's because the user story is, the user story requires standalone, and I agree with that, no problem. What I'm saying is I'm not sure usable claim was meant to imply standalone.
But then we're talking about an abstraction that we don't even know the concrete cases of. And I'm not against later talking about the potential abstraction that you may be implying here, but that's...
I understand what you're saying.
Confounds stuff that we're trying to do.
So maybe we need to say standalone and usable claim and make that part of the usable claim definition, because it's not there now.
No, it isn't, and that's the problem I'm highlighting. So again, my suggestion is system claim probably needs to be renamed, but the intent was information that was submitted to the system as a domain type, probably a standalone claim. I think. If this probably should be a standalone claim.
No. And that's not what I want, because I want to allow a distinction between system standalone claim and system claim. Because
we can still have that. We can still have that. This is aspirational. We can have a standalone claim, and then later we can have a system standalone claim and a other. I mean, I think system essentially is going to be an adjective. It's going to be more fruitful, because the same discussion is going to come up with any aspirational thing we add.
Okay, so maybe you want, what you're doing is renaming system claim to system standalone claim, and then changing the definition, because system claim now does not.
Hand, yes.
System claim does not. That's why I was suggesting duplicating instead. I'm saying there's a system claim and there's a system standalone claim. We have consensus on this one. Create a new one.
Do we? So I no, we don't. I honestly don't know whether there's any use in adding this as an abstraction to the system. The use case for adding standalone claims was this, like, so that blah blah blah, all the reasons.
No, that's one use case, but it's not the only use case. No, sorry, for adding standalone, yes, but for adding system claim,
Yeah, but you're talking about an abstraction that's undefined. So the user story gave rise to standalone. That's why we added system and all these things.
Yes.
That's why we defined.
No, but I mean, I've been fighting all along to say I want the abstraction, and that's why we defined system claim as we did. And you're trying to walk back all the work we did where I agreed, because system claim did not require standalone. I thought
the main reason for introducing system claim was to have a union of candidate accepted and rejected.
That's correct, but it's as the domain type claim. And if we have another one as another domain type, let's have another one with a different domain type.
Or we turn this into an adjective and the language is correct, because then system claim is exactly what you want it to be, but user story 1 are system standalone claims.
And I'm happy with that solution.
Okay, so I suggest we introduce, and I think I already did.
We even have it system submitted.
So this one needs to be defined. This one, can I rename it to standalone claim?
Yes.
Timothy?
What happened to standalone claim?
We're now arguing that standalone claim that
No, what happened to didn't we have a standalone claim?
It was renamed to usable claim, which was probably a mistake. But so the argument now is that standalone claim has some additional requirements on top of claim, both of which are aspirational concepts that don't say whether or not they've been added to the system, but it means that this is the set of criteria. It defines a set of criteria essentially that need to be evaluated. And for something to be a standalone claim, which is the type of thing that we need in user story 1 for it to work, there's some additional criteria on top of claim, non-indexicality, conciseness, and all that stuff that we listed here.
Yeah, and then we'll be able to define standalone system claim, which is what we want in user story 1.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm happy with that solution. Tim?
I'm just not sure what's in usable claim. Then I need to.
We'll get there. So usable claim will probably be a standalone system claim, I think, essentially.
I'm happy with that.
And system claim, this one needs to be turned into a adjective.
Yeah.
This becomes a, well, I think usable claim essentially can be tossed because it's just going to be a system standalone claim.
Correct.
Wait, no, because there was a whole reason for defining usable. Go back to usable claim.
Yep.
Is a candidate claim, which isn't accepted by the community as a good claim, is usable. Is a candidate or as a standalone claim a candidate or accepted?
It doesn't say anything about that. A standalone claim is aspirational. It's just like claim is.
No, but I think what you're asking, and you're right, Tim, is usable was including candidates and accepted but not rejected, right? So you could have.
Is that true? Is that even true?
I think it's true.
An immutable system claim. A system claim is candidate accepted and rejected. So no, that's not true. A usable claim, as is defined right now, is simply immutable, external linkable, and structurally linkable. It simply adds these three to system claim.
Okay.
I think, well, okay. Well, I think that was an oversight here with usable claim, because I think we wanted a rejected claim to not be usable.
I think
once it's rejected, you're not going to link it to other claims internally.
Oh, maybe we did that in structurally linkable. Let me check. So no, or externally linkable.
I think that might have been part of this discussion that still needed, that still needed to be resolved by defining structurally linkable, what that even means. And what happens if something gets rejected to the existing stay, etc., etc. So I think that's underdefined at the moment.
Well, okay, but under examples, I think we should add a rejected claim does not match a usable claim.
But that's not in line with the definition. So if that's something you want, we need to update the definition.
I agree.
I mean, you may want that, but that's not what we define it as. And we can go to the user story why that is the case. I don't know here. We wanted it to be a system claim because we wanted to distinguish it from the aspirational one. So that's why we added system claim to usable.
By definition, usable claim is not defined yet because we haven't, it's using linkable claim, which we haven't defined, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is it's wrong to put a rejected claim is not usable as does not match definition.
No, what we said is
definition, but the definition isn't defined.
I remember now. It's not. Yes, structurally linkable is not defined, but what we did was exactly decouple the acceptance process from the requirements we agree on, which is a structural linkability. What usable claim does is it adds structural linkable to system claim. That's the key thing. Because otherwise, this user story doesn't work.
True.
That was the main reason for usable claim.
That was external linkability, right? Not structural, but yes, I agree otherwise.
Well, both are there, right?
Yeah. But anyway, I'm okay with adding non-rejected to this.
Why?
Because
what is the definition of rejected claim?
Exactly.
Where do we say a rejected claim is not structurally linkable? That's
exactly.
the question.
We don't. Our language doesn't require one way or the other because there's some disagreement on that design aspect.
Well, I think the problem, Tim, is that something may be structurally linked, then rejected, and so it's not. We should not be able to structurally link to it again. But on the other hand, the old structural link is present and hasn't been updated yet in theory.
Okay, let me change the question. Where do we define that an acceptable claim is structurally linkable?
But we nowhere. That the whole point was.
Well, why is that allowed as an example, but rejected is not allowed as a counter example? Alô? Tá, obrigado. You know, it seems a little arbitrary to say that.
It's not a counter example. If anything, it would be a rejected claim. I mean, it's added as an example here because a system claim covers all three candidates accepted, and yes, we didn't add a rejected example. But that's why the examples are there.
And I would change. I think I agree with Tim that we could and should change that.
Okay, but one step at a time. This definitely is going back.
Yes, I agree. Let's work on system as an adjective.
Can we start with the aspirational?
Yes.
Can we come to some agreement that standalone claim is aspirational entity? Why? What do you want to try to submit something as to the system in user story 1? Very distinct from the aspirational contextual claim, which you haven't defined yet.
Correct. I'm happy with that.
My problem with that is language. It's weird to say because something that is aspirational. Wait, does it exist?
The point is that it's. Does a claim exist? I mean,
Tim, what we mean here is that when we enter a claim from somewhere, we're saying this one looks like a claim. This one looks like a standalone claim, or should be the evaluation criteria are against.
Exactly, it's the entity submits stuff as to a system.
Yeah. So this is about acceptance criteria. Aspirational doesn't mean airy-fairy, we don't care. It means here are the acceptance criteria for it to be accepted as something.
Actually, it's a domain type. If you want to adopt the language we used, which you argued for, Timothy, in accepted as, it would be a domain type.
Right. It's a domain type. Well, it's interesting because it sounds like an adjective.
This is the root. It can't get more entity than this. Right? This is definitely not an adjective. It's the key things that need to be defined in the user stories. And the only thing we did is we set, for me personally, I don't find the distinction between the aspirational bit and the other part that relevant, but we needed it, so it's there. For me, usually I only talk about system entities when I do the step stuff.
Right.
But it is, I mean,
yeah, I'm okay with having an aspirational and then a concrete version.
So that's what this is. That's what it is. Right. This is the aspirational thing. Not saying it's been added to a system, Canada, or whatever. It's just like claim, but a bit narrower.
All right, let me just go through one more time the criteria here. Yeah. All right.
So do you see that it's fully tailored to supporting this user story?
I mean, it defines the user story because I could say as a user, as a web author, I want to link to complete trash in a claim repository. What we've done is we've defined the user story itself using your definition for standalone claim. And that's your intention for standalone claim. That makes sense, right?
That is exactly, yeah.
Let me go back to the user story. Go back there so I can, yeah.
So these requirements indeed come from this user story. Like each of these listed things are somewhat implied if you want to support this.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine with me. The thing is, like, it's not a standalone system claim. You want to link. It's interesting because it's like, okay, I want to do something. It will be a system claim because it's got to be in the system.
Yeah,
but in the user story, it's just what I want to do. So the user story itself is aspirational.
Everything added to the system will be system. That's the essence of it. So yes,
right, but my
this
question
is not...
is everything we refer to in a user story going to be the aspirational version of that thing?
So, like I said, for me, usually it's the actual system stuff. So this would be a system standalone claim, but because that's very verbose. But yes, every user story is something you add to the system. Otherwise, it's not a system user story. It defines a boundary of your system. So, but that means that standalone claim in our discussions are in an abstract setting. If we talk about an actual system, you can pretty much append the system definition in front of it. Although that's to be determined, because I think system right now as an adjective implies simply something that can be submitted, accepted, and rejected. If we decouple it from claim and make it an adjective. And then usable claim would indeed be a system externally linkable standalone claim, which is everything that's needed for this to work. And because it's very verbose, it would be useful to give that a shorter name, but
which could still be usable claim.
Maybe.
But yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What's next is updating this, right? So it would be...
yeah, you have to leave now, right?
Yeah, in 5 minutes. I think I can just update this later today.
Okay.
And leave it in the proposed definition column. The other thing I wanted to highlight was that fragment, similarly, should probably be aspirational, which it isn't right now.
No, and there I'm much less in alignment, because for me, fragment doesn't have evaluation criteria. It's a fragment. Then we can say it's a claim fragment, and then it's aspirational.
But does it mean that we can instantly assume it's a system fragment?
Yeah.
Does it have an acceptance step? Like by system, I mean
and I'm saying that's exactly what I'm saying. Fragment doesn't have an acceptance step.
Okay. That's
whereas claim fragment.
That's interesting, because in its broadest term, we agreed. And here I'm arguing why it should have an acceptance step if it's as broadly defined as it is right now. It can just be like a free form text, paragraph 2 of book this. Like,
I think well,
yeah, that's my
you can
intent.
also post
debatable,
Viagra,
but I think
right?
fragment means less
Viagra.
accepted.
No, you can also post by Viagra as a fragment, in other words.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Then you have fragment claim or fragment entity or fragment this, and those have acceptance criteria. But fragment itself doesn't.
But doesn't that mean it?
Fragment, it's like we have
But then
declarative.
It's a string. What
is it? It's a string with provenance.
With intention. It's an aspirational. It's a domain object like.
That's what I'm arguing for, Timothy. But that's what Martin Twain is arguing against. I think it's aspirational as well, according to those criteria you're outlining. But
I don't think it's aspirational. I see the point. It's because we have does not match definition. Maybe there is
exactly.
There is an acceptance criterion, but I'm really what I'm trying to say is this could be made part of the input procedure. What I'm saying is there's no intent. It's just saying where I'm defining a subset.
Remember that we don't need to agree on an acceptance process to even.
I do.
So it can be that you're arguing that that's not necessary for some.
That's not what I'm saying.
Subtypes of fragment, or
I'm saying a fragment. There's no. It's well defined or not well defined, but there's no notion of good fragment or bad fragment. It can be not a fragment, yes, but there's no.
I would disagree with that.
Okay, go ahead.
A bad fragment refers to nothing. A bad fragment doesn't accurately specify the boundaries of what it's referring to. In other words, anything that's a failed reference, it would, to me, be a bad fragment.
Fair enough. That's what I meant by it is well defined. And I'm kind of playing on words a bit, but the notion of, is this a clear claim? Is this really standalone, or is there a hidden implicit indexical reference there? Those are things we can argue about. Whereas the fragment process is much more mechanical.
Isn't that the scope problem that Timothy highlights? Like, is it well defined what the scope of the fragment is? Like, where the border, does it include the first sentence on the page or not, etc.? Isn't that part the same, similar discussion?
I don't think so. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Okay, what do we mean by aspirational? And maybe that's a question to have, but the real point is a lot of the arguments are about, is this really a claim? Whereas the fragment is this a valid fragment? Not, is this really a fragment? If it's a valid fragment, if it's a valid fragment, is this a valid, is this really a fragment? Well, yeah.
I think it's aspirational in the sense that what it hopes to achieve is that you can identify a spatial and temporal subset in a digital or physical media source, but it doesn't mean that fragments, if we don't have more defined, I mean, one of the reasons I want to have very strict digital fragments, blah, 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 is so indeed we don't need an acceptance process, because it's impossible, statically defined by the system, which in my opinion should be the goal here, that fragments are always fully defined. But if we allow in this aspirational definition of fragments, free-form text submissions and the like, that means there will need to be an acceptance process. Otherwise, you might submit invalid fragments.
Okay. I would also propose or submit that you can have fragments that you claim are identical. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep, even though their structure is different, right? Yep, and that one is better than the other, right? If one is saying how to get to the content in a circuitous way and the other goes right to the point, you might have two identical fragments, one better than the other.
Or one could be more resilient than the other. No, those are excellent points. Okay, I'm bending on this. Let's admit that it's aspirational.
But also at the same time, I think, and that's what I wrote in Hangouts, I don't think we necessarily need an aspirational definition from fragment, because we might actually very soon be able to agree on a digital fragment, which we can regardless consider a next step.
I was going to say that for me, all fragments are system fragments. I don't know if you agree with that. Well, and maybe digital fragment is a sub case, but
I think by digital I meant, well, system is a problem because system right now, undefined, but right now, if you look at system claim, refers to candidate accepted, rejected, and I don't think that's what you mean.
Yeah, but we did say submitted to the system, and that's also what I mean for fragments.
Yes, but then we need to probably have to be honest, I don't think system is going to be useful as a name. I mean, of course, it's added to, we're coming up with a language for a system. Everything is going to be system in the end. So I think by definition, anything that's not aspirational will be system.
But that's what that's why I was resisting making fragment aspirational, because I was going to bypass the aspirational part and just go to system fragment straight away.
Then we need a stricter definition, because as is, fragment is too broad. It's not clearly describing what it would be.
Fair enough. Okay, let's make system part of digital fragment, and I think it'll work. I'm happy with that. Good.
Okay, so I will try to rewrite these and system submitted by next meeting. I'll put them in proposed definitions.
Thank you.
As discussed, and I think then we can probably move on and get some stuff back in consensus.
Yep.
I think fragment doesn't change other than calling it aspirational right now.
Correct. And
I'll have a look at it. I'll drag it back regardless.
No, you have my
okay.
Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for today. Probably see you tomorrow. I'll confirm later.
Okay.
All right. Enjoy the birthday party.
Thanks. Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye.